the convocation celebrating the ordination of the young men sitting in front of me, which represents the hard work of our institution, which is Torah Stone, it's the Bleshner College, it's the Joseph Strauss Seminary, the David Fall Kollel, and it's all part of Yeshivat Mitzvah Orad Lev. Now, it's important to mention all of those institutions and all of those names because all of them have contributed considerably to the formation of these organizations. Therefore, it behooves us to mention and thank. I would love to describe what all of those institutions are, but my job is to move things along. And this afternoon is not about philanthropy. This afternoon is a Chag Hasmicha and is a celebration of Chinuch. It's all about that tremendous enterprise of passing on the yoke, the burden, the baton to another generation. And we begin that celebration with the Mechanchim. And the first of our speakers this afternoon is really someone who in this crowd needs no introduction, but that will not stop me from doing it. Our first speaker is Rav Riskin, and when you have the ma'arechet and organization that we have, it would be very easy for someone in his position to just come to these kinds of celebrations and spend the rest of the time in the office. But that's not the way it is. Rav Riskin has shown all of these graduates, musmachim, tremendous amounts of concern and care. He speaks to them often, weekly at least, and discusses with them what it means to be a community Rav. And therefore, it's very appropriate that he be the first one to talk to them this afternoon at this Chag Hasmicha.
There's been some kind of a switch from the written program, not that the written programs are Torah Moshe, but the reason is a sweet one. As many people here know, I often make what I call cameo appearances. I come in, speak, I leave. And then I would like to really stay. But for a very positive reason, I'm speaking first, because my grandson, my eldest grandson, Jose, is concluding his freshman year at our Yeshiva High School in Bnei Shmuel, and he, along with a large group of his class, made a seal in the Sechet Sukkah. So he's scheduled to speak, give his Dvar Torah in front of his class seal at 5 o'clock. So I try to be a little bit of a Rebbe. I also try to be a little bit of a grandfather. And therefore, I have a very pleasant orchestration to me. Hasmicha convocation is a time of celebration. It's a time of dedication. And I guess for us, more on the side of the Mechanchim, it's also a time for a bit of nostalgia. And I'd like to sort of introduce the nostalgic comment I'm about to make with an interpretation of the Ralbag, really pursuant to this week's coming parasha as well as last week's parasha. The Ralbag asks a magnificent question, a very obvious question. She'ela she'mitbakeshet. First of all, Parashat Shlach. the tragic Chet HaMeraglim, the tragic sin of the scouts. 10 out of 12, Nisi'ei Ha'ida, Nivcharei Hashmachim, 10 out of 12 of the most chosen of Israel, to in effect have disregarded the view of Moshe Rabbeinu, who clearly expected Am Yisrael to conquer Eretz Yisrael. Why did he take this into Rosh? Zeh b'vadai omer Rosh. Secondly, Parashat Korach. Korach wages a rebellion against Moshe Rabbeinu. Tichol ha'edah, כולם תירשים בתוך המשק. מדוע תתנסו על קהל השם? Actually a challenge to both Moshe Rabbeinu as well as to our own Kohen HaGadol. All of us are holy. Why do you, by what right do you lift yourselves above everyone else? The remarkable thing is not that Korach wages rebellion. The remarkable thing is not even that 250 cohorts joined with Korach, and there are some names that are familiar to us, like the Tanba Avinah. The remarkable thing is that there isn't a very significant chorus from among the Israelites crying out in anger, "How dare you speak against Navi HaNevi'im, Adon HaNevi'im, the one individual who saw HaKadosh Baruch Hu face to face, Kaviyachol, who gave us Torah Hashem, through whom all of the many miracles of the Exodus took place. How dare you stage a rebellion against our leader, our Rebbe, our king, our father?" And there's deafening silence. Moshe Rabbeinu falls on his face. He says, "Bokin Yodo HaKadosh Baruch Hu will decide, we'll have a test with Torah, with incense, but fundamentally, Am Yisrael does not stand behind Moshe Rabbeinu." Why not? The Ralbag, known for his philosophical work, as well as for his parshanut on the Torah, the Ralbag says something that's so simplistic almost. I should say not simplistic, but simple. It seems to be kolei ala matara. It says it exactly as it is. Ralbag says that Moshe's very greatness was also the root of his weakness is the answer. Moshe Rabbeinu was so close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The language of the Rambam, the Sechel HaPoel, the active intellect of Moshe Rabbeinu, completely identified with the Sechel HaPoel, Kaviyachol, the active intellect of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Moshe Rabbeinu, among all human beings in the world, perceived the divine intent. And since Moshe Rabbeinu was so involved in the heavenly spheres, issues, questions, which may have seemed problematic to the people, for Moshe Rabbeinu, as long as HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted, how could anyone think different? The truth is, unless one is there, it's very hard to understand how Moshe Rabbeinu sent scouts in the first place. Practical tip to the Never set up a commission unless you're willing to abide by the decisions of the commission. Or unless you make certain that you listen to the report before it's given, and you have the power to censor the report. Moshe Rabbeinu, in effect, set up a commission, allowed them to give their report without censoring. Because Moshe Rabbeinu was 100% confident it couldn't be. They wouldn't go against HaKadosh Baruch Hu, as it was inconceivable to Moshe Rabbeinu to go against HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And therefore Moshe Rabbeinu, and this is almost exactly the language of the Ravad, didn't have the patience to try to explain to the nation the importance of Eretz Yisrael. It was so clear to him because he understood it as being God's will. He didn't realize that it was necessary in some way to sell it to the nation. And therefore Moshe Rabbeinu was so close to God that he had lost touch with him. So the scouts, 10 out of 12, made the wrong decision. And the people felt distanced from Moshe didn't jump to his defense. It's a very profound insight. And therefore now I would like to share with you a moment of wisdom. I would also like to mention specifically the presence of Harav Moshe Mendelovich, Rav of Beit Chag, who is with us today. As I think most of you know, I studied for Hasmicha at Yeshiva University. And we had practical rabbinics classes. Perhaps I shouldn't admit it, but I failed my practical rabbinics class. The teacher was Rabbi Joseph Kozlovsky, Colonel Bracha. He taught class. Thinking back, there were some very special things he said that I still remember to this day. For example, the sermon can't be longer than 20 minutes. If you don't strike oil in 20 minutes, stop pouring. You know the kinds of fun modes like those. Anyway, when he began to teach us, it was really when he got into the first beginning of the subject matter, he said to us as follows. He said, boys, he said, I know you're studying with Rav Soloveitchik and you're all excited about Gemara and Rishonim. And your whole world becomes the world of the Gemara and Rishonim. And therefore, you also learn the Marsha. And the Marsha statement they repeats very often, Makshin Olav, the world asks. And you really think the world asks? You look out the window, and you see Shmerel the butcher with a warm face. You think, why does he have a warm face? He's probably perturbed by the Marsha's question, Makshinol. And then you see Shmerel the baker, and he's smiling. Why is he smiling? He has a terrence to the question of the Marsha. So I want you to understand your Balabatim, Shmerel and Beryl, will not care less about the question of Marsha. I'm going to now teach you what you really have to know. Nothing else is about this. And there's a little bit of extremeness in those days. And I got up and walked out, protested. And therefore I failed. But I did get some. And that by Chag Hasmicha is they asked me so. And I said, Lo b'shem omro, that I had heard the following thing in a class in practical physics, quoting what you had said. However, I believe that it's our task as Rabbanim to take the Marsha's question and to make it relevant to our mission. We have an eternal legacy, and that eternal legacy is the Torah. And the only way that we will succeed in our calling is if we remain completely attached to, committed to the tradition which we have received from our Rebbeim, from our past generations, pass it on intact to the next generation, with the skills that are necessary in order to make the Rashav's question of tremendous importance to every individual, in every profession, in every generation. The end of the story is that Kozlovsky came over to me at the end of the Hasmicha, and he said to me that he thinks that I was right, and he's going to revise what he says. He changed my name, even though I didn't take the course. But what's really important is I've come also through the years to understand the wisdom of what he was trying to impart to us, even though I felt then and still feel now that it was said in too extremistic fashion. It's very important for us as Rabbis to try to come as close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu as possible through Torah. To be completely dedicated to what we're doing. But at the very same time to understand that the word morasha is fundamentally a hippie, that our most important task is to give over the tradition that we have to the next generation. A Yerusha, which is usually interpreted as inheritance, you can squander. A morasha, you must give over. And therefore it's not enough that you're convinced of Torah. And certainly within the Kotlei Beit HaMidrash and the years that you've been in the yeshiva, there are certain fundamental axioms that are accepted by everyone. In the world out there, that's not the case. And our task has got to be without in any way taking from the preciousness and completeness of the tradition that we have, to find the proper language, the proper vehicle, the proper manner, to give it over in a way in which it will be heard, it will be respected, it will be valued. Then, I think very good. It's been a pleasure to have had the privilege of studying with you. And I hope that Zrat Hashem, I will also have the privilege of visiting you in pulpits and also seeing you come back and eventually assume positions in Rabbanut and Chiyuch here at St. That's how it's all.
And no bearing on the fact that we have 12 Musmachim sitting before us. Our next speaker, again, is of course extremely appropriate, but in a different sense. We're very proud of the fact that basically half of the Musmachim sitting here in the front of the Beit Knesset actually began their studies here with us at the Yeshivat Miftar and with Rabbi Gravender. One of them actually began his studies with Rabbi Gravender, but in Moscow rather than here. And to really take people from the beginning of their studies through to Hasmicha is something very, very special, very, very unusual in our age. and it's something that I'm sure Rabbi Bravender is very, very proud of. I just want to make one comment. If I had said a moment ago that Rabbi Riskin has displayed to these young men what it means to care, Rabbi Bravender, and I don't know what the Bravender method is. People talk about it, whatever. But the one thing I do know about him is that over the years, he's worked very hard at trying to teach them how to think. And that's an extremely important contribution to their development and to what they'll be able to give over to Congressmen. Rabbi Bravender.
I just found out by looking at the schedule. It says greetings. Hello. That's a trick. That's a trick of public speaking to kind of pick up on what the previous speaker said and sort of like wedge yourself in, right? Now, Rabbi Riskin said many things that I could pick up on and sort of try to wedge myself in, but I would like to say that it's interesting that I also failed practical rabbinics. I failed, though, because I never attended. I could not understand that there was some connection between attending and passing. I thought it was like yeshiva. No, they said, you have to attend. But somehow I also got smicha. And I was thinking, what was it? I wasn't thinking about greetings, but I was thinking about what I might say to those of you who worked hard and achieved much and are setting out on a path which is difficult and demands constant work and fun. I thought it came to me that there's a phrase that we say in Hebrew, Klei Kodesh, sacred vessels. We say Klei Kodesh, and we refer to Rabbanim. Rabbanim are sacred vessels. I wasn't sure where this came from, so I looked it up. I looked it up in a modern dictionary of the Hebrew language. In the modern dictionary of the Hebrew language, which is not a primary rabbinic source, but sometimes a handy book to have around. I looked it up in the dictionary. The dictionary said, Munach amami. This is what people say. When the dictionary says that something is amami, what they mean is they don't know a literary source. What those of you who are a little more accustomed, those who are a little more accustomed to Hasidus, you would say, this is the voice of the people. Those of you who studied Latin would say whatever you would say. In other words, the people decided that to call the rabbi a Rav is not really enough. It doesn't tell the story, even though Rav is a very honorable title. But the people, on their own, decided to refer to their Rabbanim, to their Dayanim, to their Mechanchim as Klei Kodesh. And even though it's true that these people don't always get paid a lot of money for what they do, and it's possible that the people thought maybe a little trade-off in COVID would be admissible, Nevertheless, the specific choice of those words, Klei Kodesh, to refer to the Rabbanim is interesting. You know that in the Beit HaMikdash there were Klei Kodesh, kelim, vessels that were used in the Avodah, and vessels that were permanently a part of the furniture of the Beit HaMikdash. Aron, Kaporet, Mizbechot, Shulchanot, Pachim, Shemen. All these kelim were made by Moshe Rabbeinu, and then apparently made again by Shlomo HaMelech when he finished the Beit HaMikdash. Now the history of these kelim, the kelim that are called Klei Kodesh, is interesting, because they do not parallel the history of the Beit HaMikdash. The Beit HaMikdash was built and destroyed, rebuilt, and finally destroyed. And as we know, destroyed means no sign, almost no sign of the house that was the Beit HaMikdash, except for the Kotel Ma'aravi, which was not a wall of Beit HaMikdash itself. The kelim, however, disappeared and reappeared at different times. We know that in the time of Yoshiyahu HaMelech, Nignizu, they were all put away. Nebuzaradan brought the kelim to Bavel. Belshazzar used the kelim in a big party that he made. Achashverosh may have used the kelim as well. Koresh finally allowed the kelim to be returned to the Beit Hashem, so that the kelim, Valger and Zaharum, you know, they wander around. They show up from time to time. The Beit HaMikdash, the enemies of the Jewish people are confident that it has to be destroyed, that the center of religious devotion has to be uprooted. When it comes to the kelim, they exhibit a different attitude. Maybe we should keep them. Maybe they would look good in our museum. Maybe we'd be able to use them on state occasions. After all, gold, silver, fancy, nice. Finally, Titus brought them to Rome. And in a strange manner, they remain sort of on that arch, the kelim. And maybe they are somewhere. You know, from time to time, someone comes along who is certain that he knows where they are. And it seems to him that it's perfectly reasonable that the kelim should be someplace and not no place. So that the kelim have their own story. They have their own history. They seem to be indestructible. It's true, we lose track of them from time to time. But later on, they reappear, and they come back, and they are reused, and they become again the Klei HaKodesh. We're learning the sugya in Megillah about Ma'alim B'Kodesh. Ma'alim B'Kodesh. That if you have an object that is a kli, that is a vessel, that has in it, was imbued with the notion of Kedusha, somehow that notion has to be maintained and protected. Ein Morid. You can't take Kedusha and devalue it. You can't lower it to a lesser station. You can. Asur. It's asur midoraita, asur midrabanan, asur. It doesn't make any difference. The difference between the Doraita and the Rabbanan in this matter is technical. But the prohibition is the same. Ein moridin. Ein moridin. Rashi says, we learn from a pasuk in this parasha, in the parasha of Korah. The pasuk talks about the machdot ha-chata'im ha'elu, ha-chata'im ha'elu b'nafshotav, about Korah and his group who brought the Ketoret sacrifice. Asu otam riki'ei pachim zipui lamizbeh. Even those censers, even those kelim, which were used improperly, but nevertheless function within the notion of Kedusha, could not be thrown away, could not be set aside, but they were used to cover up the Mizbeach. Ki yikrivu livnei Hashem vayikdashu v'yu la'ot livnei Yisrael. And these kelim were imbued with the Kedusha of the Korban of the Ketubah. So kelim, Klei Kodesh, there are two ideas that I discover, or that seem to be making themselves felt. And one is the durability of the Klei Kodesh. Their durability in history. They reappear. They're used again. They have a future, in spite of the fact that from time to time it seems to us that things may have gone awry, or things are not exactly as they should be. The kelim are something to hold on to. Kedusha means that having entered into the world of Kedusha, there's only one way to go. That's up. It's not that. It's a slide or an elevator. But it is an obligation. It's not just that a person is a musmach, that you have achieved something, that you are something, that you have done whatever it is you have to do. But the obligation is far-ranging and reaches out much further. The obligation of Rabbanut is to go ever higher, to do ever better, and to understand that if you feel yourself slipping just a little bit, then you are encroaching on the Ein Morid. And so it was that the people, the Jews, the Jewish people, without guile, and without cleverness, and without investigating the matter in a scholarly fashion, looked at their rabbanim, looked at their leaders, and said to them, Klei Kodesh, you're there. We know you're always going to be there. We know that you'll show up again and again when we need you the most. But more than anything else, we see in you the reflection of the embodiment, the notion of Kedusha, which is explained in the beginning of the Gemara that we're learning now in the Yeshiva, the last parak of Megillah. Ma'alin b'Kodesh, the Ein Morid. It's not just a halacha that applies to abstruse and difficult issues. It is what the Rabbanim and the Mechanchim are about. Because they're not simply going to teach things that they learn. They're going to pull everybody along in the direction of Ma'alim and Ein Morid. And so Klal Yisrael gave you that title. We today give you a lesser title, Musmach V'Rabbanut. But Klal Yisrael is waiting to apply to you that very special title that it has reserved for those people who prove themselves. That title is Kodesh.
The Mechanchim, the perpetrators, to the Musmachim, the students. We are today recognizing and honoring 15 young men, 3 of whom are already in the field, and there are 12 who are seated before me, and we offered them the opportunity to make very brief comments here at this ceremony, 9 of whom have availed themselves of this opportunity, and so it's really a sublime pleasure to one by one introduce those 9 in alphabetical order that will be making these short remarks. The first is Shlomo Zelik, obviously.
What Maradata, what Reish Metivta, what Rosh HaKolim, what Rabbanei Yeshiva, right,
Just because Shakespeare said it. If The Little Prince wonderfully described our relationship with God, why not learn it from there too, even though this French guy isn't the one we usually study? For God is everywhere, and therefore can and should be found everywhere. Every day for the past 4 years, I've sat and watched this edict in action. The Talmidei Chachamim that sit before me in the front of the Beit Midrash never have a problem delving into other sources to assist, contribute, and strengthen their learnings gleaned from the Torah proper. And to witness this so effectively put into action has been a constant inspiration for my learnings and the strengthening of my Torah and teachings. So I thank all the Rabbanim for proving to me that being a Torah Jew doesn't always mean just being a Sfarad Jew. Thank you.
He is really a man who's interested in us taking the material of Torah and bringing it to us in such a way that we can live it and we can use it. So if Rav Riskin gave these young men the understanding how to care, and if Rav Ravender taught them how to think, Rav Reich has taught them how to understand. And it is that combination of ingredients that Be'ez Hashem will truly make them ready to take on the vast burden that they're accepting. Rav Reich.
אני שאני אדבר קצר בגלל שאני מחכה למרצה הבא. ברגע שהוא מגיע אני מסיים, אז אני מקווה שזה יהיה קצר. יש כמה הבדלים ביני לבין קודמיי. ההבדל הראשון הוא השפה. ההבדל השני שרק הבנתי אותו היום, אני לא נכשלתי בבחינות הרבנות. גם בזה לא. אבל ללא ספק יש מסביב להיות תלמידים שכרגע מסיימים את תפקידם ונכנסים לתוך התחום האמיתי של להעביר את המסרים הלאה. ואני חייב לומר את האמת, המילה הנכונה למעמדי כאן הוא לא שאני מתרגש. זאת לא התרגשות, זה ממש איזה משקל של מעמסה על כתפיי, אני אומר באמת בכנות, מין איזה פחד כזה, שמא חס וחלילה. אנחנו לא השכלנו ללמד נכון, לא השכלנו שהדברים יעברו בצורה נכונה, ומתוך כך גם בעולם החיצוני הדברים לא יתקבלו כמו שהם. כשלומדים הלכה, ובדרך כלל אנחנו נפגשנו על רקע לימודי הלכה, וטוב, אז בשר וחלב ככה, וזה בן יומו ולא בן יומו, וכל מיני שיקולי דעת, ואם נפל החלב לתוך הבשר, ותת הגבר והילה הגבר. זה קשור למעלים בקודש, תת הגבר והילה הגבר, אבל שם זה תת הגבר. מתוך הדברים הללו, אני רוצה שננסה לראות זווית אחרת לגמרי, שהיא קשורה להלכה, היא קשורה ממש לשולחן ערוך, אבל ביחד עם זה אולי יש בה מסר מאוד מאוד חשוב לכל אחד מאיתנו בתורתו. בשולחן ערוך ישנה הלכה פסוקה בסימן מ"ז, המהרהר בדברי תורה אינו צריך לברך. אדם שרק הוא חושב על תורה, הוא לא צריך לברך את ברכת התורה. ברכת התורה, כך פוסק השולחן ערוך, זה לא על הרהור אלא זה על מעשה, ולנו הגיע בפנינו איש המעשה הגדול מכולם. אני קדמו בברכה. כפי שאמרתי, אני אשמח לכבוד בואו של הרב לאו, ולכן אני באמת בתוך הדברים הללו רוצה לסגור את הדברים. אם אמרנו שהמעשה הוא כושר חשוב בהלכה, עד כדי כך שהשולחן ערוך פוסק שעל הרהור אין מברכים בעצם מבחינת ההלכה, בעצם אנחנו שמחים בנוכחותו של הרב הראשי לישראל, שהרב הראשי לישראל הוא בעצם ראש העושים. הרב הראשי לישראל שנמצא לפנינו הוא לא ראש הרבנים של ישראל. חלק מכם יפוצו בכל מעיינות הגולה ויראו בכל מקום שהם שלהיות שייך, להיות משוייך, או מציון תצא תורה כפשוטו, זהו הרב הראשי לישראל. בדברים לפעמים הפשוטים יותר נדרשים לרב הראשי, וכמובן בדברים הגדולים ביותר אין לנו אלא להידרש לרבנות ישראל, כי מציון תצא תורה. כך היא דרכה של תורה. ולכן אני קודם כל מודה מאוד מאוד לכבוד הרב על בואו הנה, ועל כך שהוא בעצם יאמר לנו את אותם דברים לכם, לאלה שמסיימים, לאלה שיוצאים לדרכם, לאלה שכבר נמצאים בחוץ, מתוך תקווה שזה גם עולה על ברכת העם שבשדות וגם ההתברכו הרחוקים. בבקשה, כבוד הרב הראשי.
אני די נרגש, אני אומר את האמת, כבוד הרבנים, ראשי הישיבה, ראשי בית המדרש, משפחות נכבדות ואחרונים חביבים, בוגרי בית המדרש המוסמכים לרבנות בשעה טובה, ברוכים תהיו בשם השם. אני נרגש כי הייתי פה, הזכיר לי אלי מזרחי בכניסה, הייתי אצלכם בגבעת המפל בית.
הרב יצחק יעקב בן רבי יהודה ליל אלעזר ברוס.
Everybody wants a coffee. They want an autograph. Good. How's it? I hate microphones, but I guess I have to use it. I hope everybody can hear me. Okay, better? This Gemara in Shabbat, Samach Tet Amud Aleph. Amar Rav Huna, Hayam Halech B'Midbar, Ve'en Yodea Ematai Shabbat. So if a guy's walking the desert and he doesn't have his Palm Pilot, doesn't have any telephone, he doesn't know when Shabbat is supposed to be. What does he do? So Rav Huna decides that he should Moneh Shisha Yamim U'Meshamer Yom Echad. That he should count 6, representing the week before that, and then the 7th that he counts should be Shabbat. Of course, like any Gemara, there's a machloket, and Chia Bar Rav decides he has another way for this person to figure out when Shabbat is. He says, Meshamer Yom Echad U'Moneh Shisha. What he should do is actually that day, with the first day, he should call Shabbat, and then the following 6 days should be the following week. Of course, there's reasons behind why they decided these two opinions. There's obviously, method to their madness. And why does one say, do 6 days of the week and then Shabbat, and the other vice versa? So the Gemara asks, "But my policy."